Hey Latchkey kids and driving mutants, I'm Lady Shasha, Mistress of the Snark. Let's get into Wes Craven's new nightmare. This starts with Heather having a nightmare about her husband having one of his special effects stunts going wrong. Then lots of weird things start to happen, like how the aftershock from the earthquake left 4 cracks on the wall. It's all timed so well. Her son Dylan behaving oddly. This all works to make the day feel off, and it created an anxious feeling within me. Heather's son Dylan is played by Miko Hughes, the actor who also played Cage in Pet Sematary. One thing that bugged me is that Dylan's room was on the first floor, with the bed up against these double windows by a pool. He's barely out of toddlerhood. I would have put him upstairs nearby. I almost forgot to mention that in this, all the actors are playing themselves. That's why Heather is Heather and not Nancy. John Saxon plays himself, not Nancy's dad. Robert Englund is Robert and not Freddy. Wes Craven and producer Bob Shea even appears as themselves as well. Speaking of Robert, his painting looks like it was painted by the same artist who painted Candyman in Cabrini Green. This movie is a little bit wild. First of all, did Wes Craven actually tape some knives to this baby's hands? Shout out to Lynn Shay, who pops up as a nurse at the hospital Nancy has to take Dylan to when he appears to have a seizure. This doctor is the judgiest judgmental McJudgerson there ever was. Freddy takes a while to show up, and when he does, it's like, I don't like buff Freddy, muscle milk Freddy, GNC Freddy, swole up on your ass Freddy. Also, is he wearing leather pants? When he shows up again, it's even worse. He later shows up with another new sweater. This one is a mock turtleneck. He's also sporting a green hat, trench coat, leather pants, and these lace-up combat boots. I also don't like the redesigned bone glove. It doesn't look as scary as the OG glove. Plus, who is scared of anyone in leather pants?
You don't scare me at all.
Jane, I want to talk to you later.
Goodbye.
Anyway, they try to sedate Dylan and he sleepwalks across the highway home. And there's a giant Freddy in the clouds trying to get him. Heather chases him throughout all of this. And when she and Dylan get back to the house, John Saxon shows up again. Only he's not calling her Heather, he's calling her Nancy. And at this point, the house turns back into the house on Elm Street, complete with the blue door. While she was being distracted by John Saxon, Dylan goes missing again. And so, I started to say Nancy. Heather has to go back into the dream world to retrieve Dylan. She ends up going into Freddy's lair, which is no longer a boiler room, and now it's like some type of ancient ruins looking place. This movie plays like a Wes Craven's greatest hits collection. We've got rotating rooms, quicksand stairs, stretching arms, tongue action. I mean, twice the tongue action. But wait, there's more. Giant Freddy in the sky is back too. This ends with Heather and Dylan defeating Freddy Krueger in a similar way that Hansel and Gretel defeated the witch in Hansel and Gretel, because that's what book Heather was reading to Dylan earlier in the film. When they emerge back into the real world, they find Wes Craven's script. There's a thank you message that says, "Thank you, Heather, for playing Nancy one more time." This movie is overrated. It's not bad by any means, but it is not the masterpiece that so many people make it out to be. And with that, I'll be back in a moment to talk to you about Freddy vs. Jason, the movie 10 years in the making. Welcome back. Let's get into Freddy vs. Jason. This starts with Freddy Krueger lamenting about how no one remembers him.
I can't come back if nobody remembers me. I can't come back if nobody...
So he revives Jason to make the kids scared again by impersonating his mother and telling him to go to Springwood. Jason, you should have known that wasn't your mother. She always wears a blue sweater, not a red one. Then we get a scene with a girl, a 35-year-old grown-ass woman going skinny dipping at Crystal Lake, and Jason takes her out with a quickness and heads on over to Springwood. Next we get another scene with some 27-year-old teenagers hanging out. Lori, Hat Girl, and Kelly Rowland. I'm not learning their names. Then 2 jerk-faced boy grown-ass men show up acting like complete asses. Baseball Hat Girl gets it on with the more abusive of the two, and this plays out just like a Friday the 13th movie. He even gets folded up the way Jason likes to do. I like that too. Kelly encourages Lori to go get with the other repulsive dude bro guy, which really irritated my life because she was encouraging her friend to get with this loser, and yet she was super mean to, what was his name? I want to say Dunkelman. Linderman. She was so mean to Linderman for no reason at all. But dude bro is goals. Whoever wrote that bit of ridiculousness, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Two other characters are introduced as a couple of guys who were sent to a mental facility for believing Freddy was after them. They break out of the facility when they see on the news that there was a murder at Laurie's house. And Laurie's house was Nancy's old house, except now the door is yellow. There's another character that goes to school with them and ends up with them after Jason shows up to the rave. I think his name is Freeberg. He's my favorite character and has some of the best lines.
The goalie was pissed about something.
Gotta go! Now! Come on!
Let me handle this, bitch.
I hate this one scene that he's in because it's the second time in this series where they've made weed seem like a hallucinogen. It is not. Old anti-cannabis ass propaganda. His kill scene was great though. He got split into two. And I enjoyed that. This has some nice callbacks to the series. There's a dream goat, which I'm pretty sure is a callback to the dream lamb from part 1. Giving the kids at the psych ward Hypnocil to suppress their dreams is a callback to part 3. And there's faces through objects that should be solid, and that's also a callback to part 1. Anyways, Freddy turns into a giant caterpillar and possesses Freeberg and then tranquilizes Jason. The surviving grown-ass individuals decide to take a sedated Jason back to Crystal Lake. While he's sedated, Freddy messes with him in the dream world. Freddy discovers that Jason is afraid of water and reduces him to the crying kid he was in Jason Takes Manhattan. This is why this had to be Freddy vs. Jason and it couldn't be Freddy vs. Michael Myers, because what is Michael Myers afraid of?
Doug, what is not a damn thing?
My middle sister had the nerve to say that she wished that there was a Jason vs. Michael movie. I told her that would be a silent film. Anyways, Laurie finally pulls Freddy out into the real world, and this is when he really gets to get it on with Jason. That didn't come out right. You know what I meant. I saw this in the movie theater, and it was at this point that the audience screamed in anticipation. Then they literally picked sides. When Freddy had the upper hand, Elm Street fans cheered. When it looked like Jason Voorhees was winning, Friday the 13th fans cheered. It was like two groups of fans cheering at a sports event. I will say that this movie is much more fun to watch in the theater with a crowd of people than it is to watch at home on TV. The effects were hit and miss because they used too much CGI for my taste. And this does feel a little bit dated and like a time capsule of the early 2000s. There was nu metal, early 2000s R&B, low-rise bootcut jeans, a member of Destiny's Child, and people drinking Everclear. One thing that was late and delayed is them having a rave in a cornfield. That's some 90s-ish. By the early 2000s, it was all about the foam parties and mega festivals. Not for me, because I don't do festivals due to the walking in the dirt thing and the porta potty situation. And a foam party is like bathing with hundreds of strangers, and that was gross to me even before the Pandorama. Another thing that dates this movie is that times have changed for the better as far as what is acceptable to say. Freddy and Kelly would have been so canceled if this came out today. Between
Sweet. Dark.
and this line right here,
What kind of runs around in a Christmas sweater?
bear in mind, these were always up things to say. It's only now that people are receiving consequences for their fuckery, and I'm here for that. That said, this movie is a product of its time, which is nearly 20 years ago, and it was fun to watch in the movie theater at the time, despite its faults. At the time of this recording, this movie was available on HBO Max as well as Peacock TV. And I say that because, like I always say, don't take my word for it, watch it for yourself. Just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. How do you feel about New Nightmare? Did you see Freddy vs. Jason? Did you know that there was almost a Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash? At least there was a comic series. What horror versus movie would you like to see happen? Let me know in the comments. Until next time.